I didn't have a very strong sense of politics when I was a little boy, although as soon as I could start to read, I started reading about it, but I knew that my daddy was in an election and I was on my daddy's side. And I'd go and knock on doors and say, would you please vote for my daddy, for no other reason than he was my dad. But people were wonderfully kind, and I remember being invited in for watermelon. People said, what's a little boy like you out doing knocking on doors? I really couldn't explain the issues or didn't even try to, but it was part of the family working together. I mean, our families always worked together, no matter who was in a project. My older brother, my younger brother, my parents, or me. Everybody always rallied, and all my family has worked on my campaigns. We've worked on my brother's campaigns and their projects, and my father's campaign. That's the way it always has been. You wonder, gee, why am I doing this? And it's awfully nice to have a wife to come home to hug, and little kids to hug you, and they don't know whether you've had a good day or a bad day. They just know you're their dad, and they welcome you home. And if that doesn't work, we have a dog, so he's always available, even if the other ones aren't. So certainly, politics is not the easiest life. That being said, it's richly rewarding in many other ways, and I still am deeply committed to what I'm doing and believe very much in the system. I think all of us have a responsibility to be knowledgeable and to participate in the system, and I am the one that have chosen this way to make a contribution. I don't think politics is the only way to make a contribution, because there are many, many ways to serve and to elevate the spirits and sights of society. It can be done with a great idea, it can be done with a great song, it can be done by creating jobs, it can be done by just being a nice person to other people. I've just chosen the political route.
There are changes happening out there. There's something that's saying, look, after 42 years, we need a change. And the liberals are addressing the issues in very substantive and positive ways. We're not running away from debate. We're not trying to hide. I'm happy to share my vision for Ontario with everybody in this province. Mr. Miller has chosen rather to run a peekaboo-style campaign. He's traveling about the province in a blue cocoon, carefully orchestrated, not discussing the issue. See, I view that as an insult to the electorate and to the democratic process. What is more fundamental to our free and open democratic system than debate and discussion and putting forward views and letting the voters shop and compare?
It's not a campaign of personalities. I know the other leaders very well, and I like them both. And I have had my battles in the legislature, but they're always left there. It's not personal in any way. I think this is more a fight about the future of this province and how it's going to be governed and where we are going to go together and how we are going to mobilize 8.5 million people to accomplish some of those great purposes. It's really a battle of ideas.
We have been traveling this province in the last week, as we have in the months and years previously, discussing in very specific and positive ways the Liberal alternative, how we will run this province and what we expect to gain for that. What we expect to gain for every person in this province.
The number one priority in my campaign has been jobs and education and the interrelationship between the two. It's quite obvious to me that the skills that I learned are not going to be the skills that are going to take the next generation on. My 7-year-old knows a great number of things that I don't know, and that's the way it should be. We've got to make sure that we have a group of people that's adequately equipped and literate in the new forms of communication and knowledge building that are going to be able to move ahead with courage. You know, with all of these insecurities that we face in this ever-changing world, you know, some people want to run backward and grab the security blanket of 20 years ago. It might be very nice emotionally, but it is not the way the world is going to be. The world 10 years from now is not going to be the way it was 20 years ago. And I think that we have to apply our values and our concerns and our care for our fellow men to those changing technical realities of this world.
David Peterson is a man whose ideals have not been changed by politics. David Peterson, the leader, is first and foremost David Peterson, the man.
He's an incredibly kind person. You can just see him with his children and with his wife and with his mother and me and his brothers. At the same time, he's a very pragmatic guy, and he can be tough. He knows how to say no. In business, he had a remarkable success in a very few years by making astute judgment, by saying no when he had to, but by also being incredibly fair.
I remember saying to him not too long ago, David, how do you make these decisions? There's so many decisions. And he said, I consult all the people whom I respect. I talk to you and Dad, and then I make my decision, and I make a decision so that when I go to bed, I can sleep.
My thoughts when I'm going to bed, and as I wish my wife was here because I'm traveling all over the place, and but I'm feeling very positive about the campaign. I think that people are ready to listen to the Liberal Party, and perhaps they haven't been in the past. They're taking very seriously the things that we're saying. They may not agree with them all, but they're saying, these are serious, well thought out proposals to build a better Ontario.
You see, Mr. Miller is not standing up for Ontario. We need guarantees of protection of Ontario. Mr. Mulrooney's new plan, his new oil pricing agreement, would increase the oil in the province of Ontario, when fully implemented, by 22 cents a gallon. And that would translate into 55,000 lost jobs. So Mr. Miller, when pressed, because he really wasn't sure what was going on, so I read, said, well, I will have a meeting with Mr. Mulrooney next week. And he had that meeting. The meeting, I am told, lasted 45 minutes. He lost roughly 2,000 jobs per minute that he was talking. I'm only glad the meeting didn't last an hour and a half.
Nobody hands anything to anybody these days, be it an individual, be it a community, be it a province, or be it a country. We're going to have to continue to work to achieve excellence, to prove ourselves, to compete, and end up on top, hopefully. I think we can do that, but I think in some areas we've fallen down because we haven't had the direct and forward kind of leadership that we need.
Without leadership, the future of Ontario is not what you would like it to be. That's why it's so important that we choose a leader like David Peterson.
It's very hard for one person to carry the experience or the sensitivities for all of the province in one's own head. That's one of the reasons I tried to build a team, and I think we have, that's truly representative of all of Ontario, the real face of Ontario, not just corporate elites or people from one sector. And I think with my own range of experience in listening and learning and my own background, as well as the team that we have, we are equipped and prepared to govern sensitively and compassionately and competently. There's no excuse for government incompetence, but it has to be a sensitive and compassionate governing as well.
Share David Peterson's vision of the future. On May 2nd, vote Liberal for your Ontario.